It was 6:14 in the morning on Christmas Eve. The house smelled like cinnamon candles and pine. There was a fresh pot of coffee brewing in the kitchen. My grandkids were going to arrive in a few hours, and I had presents wrapped under the tree for every single one of them. And then my phone buzzed. One notification from my bank. Alert! A withdrawal of $414,000 has been processed from your account ending in 7742. I read it 3 times, 4 times. I thought I was still dreaming. I sat up in my bed, hands shaking, and I read it again. $414,000. Gone. That was my entire retirement. 31 years of working, saving, sacrificing, wiped out before sunrise on Christmas Eve. And when I found out who did it, I wished I had never woken up that morning.
Let me back up so you understand the full picture. My name is Sandra. I'm 63 years old. I live in a mid-sized town in Ohio, in the same house where I raised my 2 kids, my son Daniel and my daughter Renee. I spent 31 years working as a hospital administrator. I wasn't rich by any stretch. But I was disciplined. I drove the same car for 12 years. I packed my lunch every single day. I skipped vacations, clipped coupons, and put money away every month like clockwork. That retirement account wasn't just money to me, it was freedom. It was the promise I'd made to myself that after a lifetime of hard work, I would finally get to rest. My husband Gerald passed away 8 years ago. Heart attack. Unexpected. We'd been married for 27 years, and losing him nearly broke me. But I kept going. For the kids. For myself. Daniel, my son, lives in Colorado with his wife and 3 boys. He calls every Sunday. Steady, responsible, the kind of man his father would have been proud of. Renee, my daughter, she's 41. She lives 20 minutes from me. She's always been the complicated one. Charming, funny, the life of the party, but also impulsive, financially reckless, always one bad decision away from a crisis. I loved her the way you love someone who keeps walking toward fire. Desperately. Helplessly. Constantly afraid. Over the years, I'd helped Renee out more times than I can count. A few thousand here when her electricity got cut off. A few more when her car got repossessed. I co-signed on an apartment for her in 2019 after her second divorce. I paid for my granddaughter Lily's school supplies when Renee said she was short that month. I never kept score. She was my daughter. That's what mothers do. But what I didn't know, what I couldn't have imagined, was that Renee had been watching me far more carefully than I ever watched her. Looking back now, the signs were there. I just didn't see them because I didn't want to. It started about 14 months before Christmas Eve. Renee began coming around more often. Which sounds like a good thing, and honestly, at first I was thrilled. We'd had some distance between us. She'd been dealing with the fallout from her second divorce, custody complications with Lily, money problems. So when she started stopping by for dinner twice a week, calling me just to chat, offering to help me with errands and yard work, I thought we were finally rebuilding something. But I remember one evening in October, about a year before everything fell apart. She was sitting at my kitchen table while I made dinner, and she casually asked me, "Mom, do you still have that financial advisor? What's his name? Mike something." I said, "Mike Hendricks, yeah?" "Why?" She shrugged. "Just wondering. Do you feel like he's doing a good job?" I told her I thought so. He'd managed my account since Gerald died. Steady returns, conservative investments. Nothing flashy, but nothing catastrophic either. She nodded slowly. "You should really think about moving your money somewhere with better returns, Mom. I've been reading about these platforms that are so much better than the old-school advisor model." I brushed it off. I wasn't interested in shaking up something that was working. But the conversation kept coming back up. Different angles, different approaches. One month it was about protecting my money from inflation. The next it was about how financial advisors charge hidden fees. She sent me articles. She shared podcasts. And I'll be honest with you, slowly, gradually, she started making me feel like maybe I didn't understand my own finances as well as I thought I did. Then, around January of that year, she mentioned something new. Mom, I've been looking into this. If you added me to the account, just as a joint holder, nothing major, I could help you manage things. Keep an eye on it. You know how confusing all these online portals can be. I told her I'd think about it. She brought it up again in February. And March. Each time wrapped in love and concern. I just want to protect you, Mom. I worry about you being alone with all of that. And God help me, I said in April. I added Renee as a joint account holder on my primary savings account, the one connected to my retirement funds. I told myself it was a practical decision. I was getting older. It made sense to have someone I trusted have access, just in case. Looking back, I want to shake myself. I want to grab that woman by the shoulders and say, Sandra, what are you doing? But I didn't know. I trusted my daughter. For several months, nothing unusual happened. Or so I thought. I wasn't checking my account obsessively. I'd get my monthly statements, glance at the balance, and set them aside. The numbers looked roughly right, at least to my untrained eye. What I didn't know was that Renee had also, through a series of phone calls to the bank that I was never informed about, managed to change the notification settings on the account. The email alerts? Redirected to an account I didn't recognize. The paper statements? She'd quietly switched them to digital only. For 6 months, she'd been slowly, methodically dismantling the safety net around my life savings. And then, on December 23rd, she made her move. I now know, from the bank's investigation, exactly what she did. She initiated a large wire transfer online the night of December 23rd, Christmas Eve. The bank's standard protocol flags large transfers for a 24-hour review window. But because she had joint access and had previously established a pattern of smaller transactions I was completely unaware of, the transfer was approved early. It cleared at 6:02 a.m. on Christmas Eve. $414,000. Wired to an account in her name, at a different bank, in another state. When I saw that alert at 6:14 a.m. and called the bank in a panic, the customer service representative confirmed what I already feared but couldn't process. The transfer had been made by an authorized account holder. My daughter. Authorized by me, when I added her to the account 8 months earlier. I sat on the edge of my bed for a long time after that call. The coffee finished brewing in the kitchen. The Christmas lights on the tree blinked quietly in the living room. And I just sat there in the silence, holding my phone, trying to understand how the person I had given life to had just stolen mine. I called Renee. It went to voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. I texted her. Renee. Please call me. Right now. Nothing. I called Daniel in Colorado. I could barely get the words out. He was there, steady, calm, his father's son, talking me through it while I sat on the kitchen floor. Yes, the floor. At some point I'd slid right down the cabinets. I didn't even notice until he asked me to sit somewhere comfortable, and I realized I already was sitting, just not where a person is supposed to. The hours that followed were the longest of my life. I called the bank back. I filed an initial dispute. They told me that because it was a joint account and the transfer was executed by an authorized holder, recovery wasn't guaranteed. There would be an investigation. It could take weeks. Weeks. It was Christmas Eve. My grandchildren were coming over in 4 hours to open presents under my tree. And I was sitting on my kitchen floor, 63 years old, trying to figure out if I had just lost everything. The thing people don't understand about financial betrayal is that it's not just about the money. Yes, the money was devastating. That $414,000 was everything I had. My security, my independence, my future. But what broke me that morning wasn't the number in a bank account. It was the realization that my daughter had been planning this. Methodically. For months. Every dinner at my kitchen table. Every. I just want to help you, Mom. Every article she texted me about financial advisors. Every gentle nudge toward giving her access. It was all deliberate. It was all a con. She had looked me in the eyes and loved me as a performance. For months. That thought, that specific thought, is what put me on the kitchen floor. Daniel drove 14 hours straight. He arrived at 8 p.m. on Christmas Eve with red eyes and a backpack. He hugged me for a long time without saying anything. Then he sat down, opened his laptop, and we started making calls. Christmas that year looked nothing like what I'd planned. But something shifted in me that night. Maybe it was Daniel being there. Maybe it was the moment I stopped crying and started thinking. Or maybe it was the text I finally got from Renee at 11:47 p.m. Mom, I'm sorry. I needed the money. I was going to pay you back. Please don't make this into something criminal. I read that text 3 times. I was going to pay you back. I had co-signed her apartment, paid her electric bill, bought her daughter's school supplies, loaned her money for years without a single repayment plan or promissory note, because she was my daughter and I loved her. And her message was, don't make this criminal. That text didn't break me. It woke me up. The next morning, Christmas Day, Daniel and I drove to the police station and I filed a report. The officer who took my statement was kind, careful, and honest with me. Financial crimes between family members are complicated, but what Renee did, despite having joint access, could still constitute theft by deception and elder financial abuse, depending on how she'd manipulated the account settings without my knowledge. 2 days later, we hired an attorney who specialized in elder financial exploitation. Then, we found out where the money went. And this is where the story takes a turn I truly did not see coming. The bank's fraud team, combined with the investigation our attorney launched, traced the $414,000 to not one account, but 3. Renee had immediately split the transfer the moment it landed. One portion went to her personal account. A second went to pay off a private debt, and when investigators looked into that debt, they discovered she owed $180,000 to a man she'd been in a relationship with for 2 years, a man who had, in the crudest terms possible, been pressuring her financially for months. He wasn't just her boyfriend. He had a history. 2 prior complaints in 2 different states from women who said he'd manipulated them into financial exploitation schemes. He'd targeted Renee. And Renee, rather than come to me honestly, had decided that stealing from her mother was easier than asking for help or going to the authorities herself. Did that make what she did forgivable? No. She still chose it. She still planned it. She still looked me in the eye at Thanksgiving, 4 weeks before she emptied my account, and said, "Mom, this has been the best year with you." But it complicated the story. And it complicated what I felt. In February, Renee was formally charged with elder financial abuse and theft by deception. The charges carried serious weight in our state. Her attorney tried to negotiate. Mine didn't budge, not because I wanted to destroy her, but because I wanted my money back, and the only leverage we had was the legal process. In March, the boyfriend, whose name I won't say because I don't want to give him a syllable more than he deserves, was arrested in connection with an unrelated fraud scheme in another state. The investigation into Renee's case contributed additional documentation that strengthened the case against him. He was looking at federal wire fraud charges. That man, who had used my daughter to drain my retirement, was sitting in a county jail by spring. As for Renee, she took a plea agreement in April. Part of the deal required full restitution. Through a combination of asset liquidation, a payment plan, and the recovery of funds from the accounts investigators had frozen, I was able to recover approximately $371,000 of the $414,000. It took 11 months. It was exhausting. It was humiliating in ways I never expected, having to testify, having to recount every detail to strangers, having to explain on paper how I trusted my own daughter. She also received 3 years of supervised probation, mandatory financial counseling, and community service. She did not go to prison. I'll be honest, there's a part of me that still wrestles with how I feel about that. There are days I think she got off easy. There are days I think sending her to prison would have destroyed Lily, my granddaughter, who was innocent in all of this and needed her mother. There are days I don't know what I think. But the money came back. Most of it. And she knows, every single day, that I know what she is. It's been almost 2 years since that Christmas Eve morning. I still have the house. I still have my retirement, most of it anyway. Daniel calls every Sunday, same as always. Lily, my granddaughter, still visits me on school breaks. She's 14 now, sweet and serious, and I hope she never finds out the full truth of what happened. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Renee and I do not have a relationship right now. She's called twice. I haven't answered. I don't know if I ever will. People asked me, they always asked me, can you ever forgive her? And my honest answer is, forgiveness isn't really the right question. The right question is whether I can live the rest of my life without letting what she did define me. Whether I can sit under my Christmas tree next December without hearing that notification in my head. Whether I can look at what happened and choose, consciously choose, not to become someone hardened and closed and bitter. That's harder than forgiveness. That's a daily decision. What I know is this: I worked for 31 years for my freedom. Someone tried to take it from me. They failed. I'm still here. And if you're watching this and you have aging parents, please check in on them. Not just emotionally, financially. Have honest conversations. Look at their accounts with them. Know who has access to what. Because elder financial abuse is one of the fastest growing crimes in this country, and it is committed most often statistically. Most often, by family members. Not by strangers. By people who know the passwords. By people who know the trust is already there. By people who know that love can be used like a key. Protect the people you love. And if you're someone's parent, protect yourself too. You've earned that right. If this story moved you, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to see more real stories like this one, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.